Bert Barron, welcome back. And in case you missed it, February 1st, there was some pretty significant changes that happened with regards to child support here in New Jersey. And this is always something that's very kind of hotly contested back and forth, and how much and for how long. And finally, we may have some clarity that came due to some new laws that took effect on February 1st. And joining me here live in the studio to talk about some of the changes, in case you missed them, she is our good friend and our legal contributor, Theresa Lyons, who is here from Lyons Associates in downtown Somerville, just to talk about this topic. Good morning, Theresa. Always good to see you.
Hey, Bert. How you doing?
I'm well. We'll take a break from this delicious breakfast you brought today. Thank you so much.
I'm a foodie. I can't help it.
Wow. You've outdone yourself once again, so thank you.
You're welcome.
When we get to 8:15, I'm going to dive back into that omelet there, but thank you for that. Changes on February 1st. I don't know, did they kind of fly under the radar a little bit, Theresa? And what do we need to know about these new changes?
So actually, the law was first introduced in 2014.
Okay.
Like lots of laws, sausage making from the day they're introduced to the time they take effect. 3 years, I guess, in some ways is pretty quickly in the area of law, but not so quickly in the rest of life. So it was introduced in 2014. Passed and signed by the governor in 2016 and took effect February 1, 2017.
Now, how did these new laws differ from what had been on the books previously?
So previously, New Jersey did not have a set age for emancipation. So a kid could be emancipated 18, 19, 20, 23, 25. There was no set age. The new statute starts with a presumption, and it says, effective from the child's 19th birthday, child support shall terminate. As soon as a child turns 19, on that child's 19th birthday, child support shall end. Now, there's a couple exceptions to that, but the presumption is once a kid turns 19, it's now flipped on the custodial parent to say, hey, wait a minute, don't emancipate my kid. And that does shift the burden, because the burden used to be on the non-custodial parent to file something in court. Now the presumption is basically on the parent that has the kid with them all the time.
Now, how was that number arrived at previously? Was that kind of mutually agreed upon between all the involved parties, whether it was 20, 21, whatever?
Well, there's a number of ways that the courts would do it and the parties would do it. The case law used to say once a child was, quote, outside the sphere of influence of their parents. Now, for some of us that have 27-year-olds living in the basement playing video games, we might never get out from under that.
That's a pretty broad definition.
It's a pretty broad definition, but it's now 19, and the only way what happens is a child's 19th birthday hits, the custodial parent will get a notice from probation. Do not ignore that notice. If you ignore it, child support could be terminated right out from under your feet and you don't even know it. And you then have to go to probation or the courts to show that one of the exceptions applies. Otherwise, child support ends at 19.
So if you ignore this letter, to not respond, it's almost like you're giving it the okay, this is fine, and it's almost like you're agreeing with it by not addressing it, right?
Correct. Okay. And that is something that's new in the law. Based
upon what you've seen, is this better? Is it more fair? Is this something that is long overdue in our state, in your opinion?
Well, when you use the word fair, like anything in the law, it depends, right? And where do lawyers make money, right? Lawyers make money when there's inconsistencies. Do I know that it's fair? In some cases, it may be more fair. It's interesting. The way the law came about was actually not so much about fairness, but it's always about money, and not so much for individual families, money for our government. So across the entire United States, only about 63% of child support is collected. Because of that, there are federal programs that give incentives to the states to collect child support. So New Jersey will get more money if it looks like it's collecting more child support.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
One way for it to look like it's collecting a higher percentage of child support is if it cleans out old cases, it cleans out cases that are close to the line. Mm-hmm. And so by having this hard and fast date, it will have an effect of closing a lot of child support cases, which then makes it look like New Jersey is actually collecting a higher percentage. So do I know that the legislative bodies in our state did this to be more fair? I don't know, but do I know that it's likely to have a positive impact on funding for the state? That I do know.
The 63%, even when you'd mentioned that number, I said, that's pretty good, but I guess if you look at the flip side, 37% or more than a third is just simply never collected. Even that's the number that's really high.
Right. I want you to imagine that you go to your job, you work every day for a full week, and you're expecting to get paid $100 even after taxes. And instead, you get your paycheck, and it's $63.
Right.
That doesn't feel so good when you're on the receiving end.
That's a good analogy.
Thank you.
You're right.
It's, because the kids still got to eat. But on the flip side, look, of the one-third that are not paying, here's the reality. You do have some people in there that are working hard. They've been laid off through no fault of their own.
Sure.
They've had to have, look, it's a rough economy right now. So you have some payors that are legitimately doing their best that just can't pay the full amount. You have some people, I hate to say it, that's just bad people, bad guys and bad girls that are not paying. Those people are always going to be around. And then you have some people who have just dropped off the face of the earth. We don't know where they are. We don't know where the kid is. Maybe somebody died. Maybe somebody's in jail. Maybe somebody moved out of state and nobody cares anymore. I think that's what this new law is targeted at, to clean out some of that riffraff within the population.
So as of February 1st, so if someone a child is going to turn 19, let's say whether it's today or any point later this year, that's when the child support will end.
Yes, child support will end unless the custodial parent can show either that the child is in school full-time.
Okay.
Right? We want children to be in school full-time.
Of course.
If they go to school full-time, then they pay more taxes and we all do better. If a child has a specific or severe disability as determined by a state or federal agency, it's important, though, that it had to happen before the child's 19th birthday.
Okay.
So you can't have a custodial parent that says, oh, now my kid is ADD, they're 19 and a half. No, it's got to be something that's a severe disability and happen before the child's 19th birthday. Or if the court sets another date, you can actually go and say, hey, court, my kid is in school, or my kid's having surgery, or my kid is this, can we pick a different date? But it will end at 19 unless a parent goes and gets one of those three exceptions.
A child turns 19 in January now. Is there payments now for the entire year, or does this now cease immediately?
Well, what happens is that a notice goes out from probation that says you have 90 days. Within 90 days it will end, and that's part of the administrative aspects. One of the reasons why this law was introduced in 2014, signed in 2016, and did not take effect until a year later is because they had to get the administrative workings in order. Every single probation department had to come up with these letters, the mailing lists. You can imagine there's over 1 million households in the state of New Jersey with children. It is very cumbersome. That's why it took a while for it to roll out.
Okay, interesting. Questions or comments for Theresa Lyons, who will be with us here until 8:30, are welcome. 732-545-9282 or 888-545-9282. Maybe you are receiving payments. Maybe you are making payments and you're impacted by these new laws and you need some clarity. She's here to answer questions, so give us a call. Again, 732-545-9282. 8:21 is our Forge Jewelers Omega time. Forge Jewelers, the official jeweler of 1450 WCTC. Attorney Theresa Lyons is in studio with us this morning. She is from Lyons Associates in Somerville, and we're talking about the new child support laws that took effect on February 1st of this year here in the state of New Jersey. And if you're impacted by this and you'd like to ask her a question, she'll be here for another couple minutes. You want to field a few calls, Theresa?
Sure.
All right. First call is from Nancy in East Brunswick with a question for Theresa Lyons. Hey, Nancy, good morning. You're on WCTC. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. And I apologize if you gave this already. I was listening, and I'm not sure if I caught everything. I stepped away for a second. It is in terms of a custodial parent having child support for a child that then turns 19, and you have to petition for an extension based on certain criterion. Could you go over what those exceptions would be, or what would, the reasons that you could get it extended?
Sure. There's three basic reasons why you can get child support extended. One, you need to show that the child is enrolled full-time in some type of schooling, either still in high school or in college or some type of secondary schooling. Even a trade school would probably suffice as long as that child was in school full-time. The second exception would be if the child had some type of disability as determined by a state agency or federal agency, but that disability had to have existed before the kid turned 19. And the third exception is if you go to the court and you get a different date specified in an order. And you can do that targeted based on either graduation or a medical procedure, or, maybe you agree the kid is taking a gap year and you're going to give the kid 6 months. If the parents agree to extend it beyond the 19th birthday, you can do that as well. But those are the three basic exceptions. But you need to act if you get a notice from probation. It's important that you do so.
And typically they give you how much in advance of the 19th birthday?
The notice is supposed to be sent out 180 days before the 19th birthday, and then again 90 days. However, the new law is just being rolled out, so while I am a lawyer and I understand that I have to be a fan of government, I understand that practically it does not always work as planned. So if you get any notice, respond immediately, and if you have any concerns also, you can contact the probation department within your county, and you can also call a skilled matrimonial attorney if you have more questions to follow up on that.
Okay, but that third criterion you said is something mutually agreed upon by both parties, both parents?
It can be mutually agreed upon by both parents. It can be imposed by a court. There might be a time where a judge says, okay, listen, a kid is not in school full time. Maybe their classes ended, but they're studying for a licensing exam. Right? So technically the statute might not afford that child a chance to continue to receive support. So a court, you can get a different date in a court order, and that can either be imposed by a judge or by the parents.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Nancy, thank you for your call. I appreciate your calling and listening in. Barney from Kendall Park, hang on. We're going to give you a chance to ask your question to Theresa Lyons coming up. We'll take our traffic and weather break first. Let's wrap up our segment with Theresa Lyons, was with us here from Lyons Associates. Barney, we're going to take your call in a second. If someone wants to contact you, Theresa, maybe off the air after the show today, what's the best way to reach your office?
Sure. They can call us at 908-575-9777. You can find us on Facebook under Lyons PC. We're on Twitter. You can find us if you want to find us.
All right, cool. We'll take one final call from Kendall Park, and Barney is calling in. Hey, Barney, thanks for the call.
Good morning, Bert. Good morning, Theresa. Just a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
Is it just for child support, these new rules and regulations, not for alimony or equitable distribution?
So this new law impacts only child support. However, you should be aware that in October 2014, there was a major change to the alimony law. Equitable distribution, there have been no major changes in recent years. Of course, there's always case law that interprets it, but a lot of changes in alimony effective October 2014. These new child support laws effective February 1, 2017. If you have more in-depth questions, you really should consult an attorney on those.
Just one quick question. Why probation department? When I was paying alimony and child support, I felt like a criminal. Why does this go through a probation department and not, some type of family department?
I think that's a fair question. I think it initially happened because the probation department had the computers and the manpower at the time. I think, unfortunately, as you might have heard earlier in the show, there's only a 62% or 63% collection rate, so there's always a big enforcement issue. I've had many payors say to me, I feel like a criminal. It's not just guys, by the way. In 30% of all households, women are earning more than men, so women are paying child support.
It was all guys.
Yeah, I know, but so I've heard many a payor say that. It's just the way it was set up administratively in New Jersey. But I feel your pain.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm over that pain, thank God. Thank you so much, Theresa. Thank you, Bert.
Thank you, Barney.
Good luck to you.
Appreciate the call. All right, why should he feel like a criminal? I mean, if he's doing his part, it kind of has the stigma, unfortunately, that comes with it, Theresa.
It does. I can understand where payors are coming from, that it's through the probation department. You know what? On the flip side, there's a lot of payees, there's a lot of custodial parents that aren't getting paid, and I guess you have to ask yourself, what's the lesser of two evils? A payor feeling like a criminal, or a payee not being able to put food on the table? Not an easy answer either way, I get it.
You're right. One last question before you go. Times are changing. In this climate that we have here, if someone has an arrears of child support and is perhaps facing deportation, What do you do in that particular case? If someone who owes a lot of money, but they might be getting bounced out of the country, what happens in that case?
Well, it's interesting because, one's initial knee-jerk reaction might be, well, that's a bad person, get them out of the country. But you're harming the payee. You're harming the children when that person is deported, because if they're deported back to their original country, they're not going to be able to pay any child support at that point. I don't know. Again, it's dueling interest of what's in the state's best interest versus an individual family.
Exactly.
Again, tough questions.
Yeah, well, that's what they pay me to ask here.
No, thank you. They don't pay me to answer. I'm here for free. So.
Gotcha, right. Thank you for being here, and we'll do this again. Again, your phone number one more time, Theresa?
908-575-9777.
Good stuff. Good information. And thanks for the breakfast, too.
No
Greatly
problem, Bert.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.